Hello darlings, it's Tess. Happy Samhain, my dear ones. If you guys watched the video that I posted last year, you'll know that last year was my first time sort of attempting to properly celebrate Samhain, and I had so much fun doing it and it was amazing to learn about it. But this year I know a lot more about this festival, or sabbat is the other term for it, and I'm really excited to show you how I'm going to be celebrating this year. You've already seen that part one of my Samhain was undertaken while I was down on holidays in Hobart, seeing my family for a while. I had a portable altar that I took down with me in a tin, and I also carved some pumpkins with my father, which was really fun, just little baby pumpkins. So you guys have seen that video already, but then part two of my Samhain is up here in Sydney, where my permanent home is, and I've set up another altar that I'm really happy with. It's been really cool to kind of think about creativity and spirituality at once and actually interpret it in two different ways. That's been amazing. Maybe it's cheating, I'm not sure. Today I'm going to be doing some sort of magic-y and ritual work about letting go of the past year's difficulties and any sort of habits and different anxieties and things or lies that I've got in my mind that are stopping me from healing or loving myself or going forward, and instead are trying to pull me back and tell me that I'm not worth anything, I never will be. Woo! All of those really fun emotions. Because Samhain is the witch's new year in the wheel of the year, it's turned a full circle, it means it's a perfect time to get all of those negativities I just mentioned and cast them away, just banish them. Let's heal, let's protect ourselves, let's go forward, because we have way too many things to love, way too many things to make, and way too many stories to tell to sit around feeling like we're worthless. I'm gonna eat some nice Samhain related food. I've put on my sort of witchiest outfit right now. I've also been doing work about Samhain in my Grimoire, which is kind of like a bullet journal for witches, just by the way. So I'll show you some of that as well, because that's been amazing to kind of notate the things that I'm learning and feel them take root in my brain, and how I'm starting to remember them better because of how I've notated them down and decorated them like it's sealing the learning. You know from last year that I've already been interested in Samhain and other kinds of pagan stuff, but I feel like this year, the past couple of months, the reason why I've been drawn into it even more, just in case you're questioning why I'm, suddenly posting about this and I've got pentacles and wands and things like that, I think it's been because I've been sort of gravitating around learning about this stuff after a lifelong interest in it, and so it felt like this year I got to a certain point with the academic work I was doing where it actually felt like I had space in my brain to start learning something new and be excited about learning something new. So I've always referred to myself as, if I was born in the year 1600 I would have been burned as a witch. Many of us would be. But I think for me, it's not just because I'm, outspoken purple-haired woman, but the types of women that were often suspected of being witches were outspoken women, healers like midwives, and creative women. I am an outspoken woman who plans to heal people through creativity. Yep, take me to the stake. Anyway, I've known all that for such a long time, and I've always referred to sort of magic and spells and other kinds of stuff like in my art journals and kind of conceptually in my brain in regards to things I wanted to make or things I wanted to remember or things that were beautiful to me. And so it just makes so much sense that now I'm learning about actual spells and actual charms that people do, incorporating different ingredients and different kinds of rituals. I feel like I've been a witch accidentally for a long time now, adding the sort of history and web of more official knowledge of witchcraft and Wicca and paganism to it. Finally, after witchcraft orbiting me for so long. So I'm gonna shut up. Point of story is, I'm gonna show you everything that I get up to today, what I eat, what I do, what I make, and just have a really good time. So there's a couple of sort of spell work rituals, and I've just nicknamed it the fire cleanse in my head. It's where you write down a list of negativities, like bad attitudes, bad habits, sort of like lies and catastrophes that you feed yourself, like basically anything that is not doing you any good, that is stopping you from developing in the things that you're good at or developing as a person. And what you do is you write them down on a piece of paper and you burn the paper. Thank you to these thoughts for teaching me that I don't deserve to think they are true, I guess. Bye-bye! The amount of negativity that has come my way this year is kind of crazy, like creativity and how difficult it is and how draining it can be. You just always feel like the art that you're making is just completely pointless and it's ridiculous and nobody likes it, nobody likes you, and all of this ridiculous stuff that isn't true just starts going on a Rolodex through your head. And obviously, because I've been doing my film this year, what did my team think of working together? Was it a positive experience for them? Like, just all of this stuff. I am ready to take the positive things that I got from that experience into my future and just whoosh, here we go. But all of the negative things that it made me feel that are unnecessarily spinning through my brain pointlessly, as you know, oh, you thought this was resolved and that you felt better and that you talked yourself out of and you're okay, but now literally days or maybe even hours later you should definitely keep worrying about it. No. Into the fire cleanse you go. The other part of Samhain, besides coming to the end of the year and letting things go that need to be let go and having hope and protecting yourself, the other thing that's most important for this Sabbat is it kind of is a witch's Day of the Dead. It's really a time to celebrate the death side of the life cycle and to remember any deceased loved ones and the deceased in general, and allowing them into your heart in a joyful way and in a reverent way. Because one of the spiritual sides of this festival, whether you choose to believe it or not, is this is the day where the veil is thinnest between the world of the dead and the world of the living. So the reason why we choose to remember our ancestors and other deceased loved ones is because they might be wandering the streets, they might have come through the veil, so you know, you want to remember them with great love and great respect and great happiness, so if they can hear you, they know that they are remembered in such a positive way. So I think the reason I've had all of this stuff to do with honouring the deceased on my mind so much this year in particular, and why it's driven me towards wanting to celebrate Samhain really properly, is that I've undergone 4 losses this year, 2 humans and 2 fish. Obviously the fish aren't as big a deal as the humans, but in terms of the scope of life and death cycle, they are included. And then of the 2 humans, one of them was very old, and therefore the sadness came with a sense of acceptance and also that it was expected. That's all I'm gonna say about that at this moment. And the other death was not expected. That's all I'm gonna say about that right now. But in any case, I have got ancestors to honor, but I've also got 2 very recently deceased people to honor, and so I'm really happy that I can do that. Anyway, welcome to part 2 of my Samhain vlog, and I'm really excited to show you guys what I do today. Blessed be. Okay, so I'm about to go head out to buy a couple of things for my Samhain supper this evening. A Samhain supper that will be taking place basically in broad daylight because daylight savings have already hit us down here in Australia. Speaking of daylight savings, you might be questioning why I'm choosing to celebrate the Northern Hemisphere date for Samhain, which is all about fall, when down here it's actually summer at the moment. And the reason why I do that for Halloween, aka Samhain, and then I'm gonna do it again for Yule, aka Christmas, it's because these Northern Hemisphere dates have permeated the culture down here in Australia, so I'm gonna be celebrating them anyway, particular Christmas with my family. So rather than say, oh no, my, you know, seasonal, the Australian date of Christmas isn't until about June, if I do that, it means I miss out on celebrating with my family. And similarly, if someone around me is celebrating Halloween, which I've done with some friends in the past few years, like, I may as well celebrate Samhain then as well. Like, there's an argument to be made that a lot of the other festivals that are a lot more to do with seasonal ones, maybe I should celebrate those in the Australian way. The background that I'm paying tribute to is my Celtic-y Anglo-pagan roots, and so I feel like therefore celebrating the dates that my ancestors would have celebrated, which was around this time of year, it makes sense to me. That is a whole really boring side story, stemmed straight from the fact that I mentioned daylight savings. Anyway, let's go. Something that I decided to do before I left was put on this little bug gold and amber pin that I got as a family heirloom. This is not just because it's in the shape of a bug, which is a living thing, which is always relevant to us as pagans, but because one of the gemstones that has particular power at the time of Samhain, given that it's orange, is amber, and so I thought it only made sense that this little winged guy come with me as I go about my Samhain day.
By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes.
Alrighty darlings, I am back from the shops and I'm going to show you what I got. And several small children walked past and I heard them say to their mum, like, oh my god, look at that, look at her hair. But I also heard at least one of them say, oh, look at that spray, assuming it was purple spray. I'm sorry, having your hair this colour is not a temporary gig, it is an iron ball around your ankle forever. The bleaching and colouring cycle, it never ends. So you gotta make sure it's worth it, which it is.
I do hope so.
Now, we all know the best things to eat on Samhain are meats, because it's the third harvest, aka the slaughter, and then root vegetables like pumpkins and sweet potatoes, and apples, because apples are food of the other world. So I've got a few variations on those three items, tailored to my tastes, aka the tastes of a toddler. So, potato, chips, apple cider, non-alcoholic by the way. Your girl can't be bothered with alcohol, it's more expensive. Really excited to have some of this. Got some orange ribbon and some black ribbon to decorate for my supper tonight that I'm making. I got a black candle as well. And in case I haven't mentioned it, I've got this roast lamb, which I actually got from Tasmania, and it was frozen solid, so it was fine coming back up here in my suitcase. But I don't like lamb as much, but my mum loves it, and so I got this, and I'm gonna have that as our roast Samhain meat tonight. I just hope I don't screw up cooking it. And then of course for dessert, because you have to have dessert if you've got the tasting palate of a toddler, another apple treat. This apple turnover with cream in it. Hello, what a dream. Anyway, now we've got good food to eat as well as our other activities. Oh, side note, on the left of this plate I have something that my father actually sells in Tasmania, and I brought a bar of it back home for my mother. It's salted caramel popcorn on a bed of chocolate with marshmallows and peanuts, aka, yes, the sugariest thing ever. But another relevant Samhain food, because it's a harvest food, is corn, including popcorn. And this treat dish I've got it resting on, using antiques and heirlooms, is a really great thing to do for Samhain, so I decided to use it for that reason. But it's also got a painted design of apples, the Samhain food, and so this little guy can join his friends and this little guy can come along for the ride. Now, what I'm setting up for here, darlings, is a pagan tradition called a dumb supper, where you hold a dinner and then you add an extra place setting, in my case a third one, to invite the spirits or the memories of long lost loved ones to come and join you on the night of Samhain. So you leave an offering there on the plate, which is what we did when we ate. You decorate with some black items like the black ribbon and a black candle that I lit later. And I also decided to use some of our antiques that belong to lost loved ones in order to invite them to come in and dine with us and enjoy these mementos that they have left here for us. For example, we have a picture here of my mum as a baby with her father. We also have this orange wine decanter and the autumnal painted dish that you saw before that both belong to my mother's mother. And then this little oval portrait of a lady was sewn for me by my paternal grandmother, who actually died this year. And then the little metal circle is actually the collar tag from our long lost and beloved gold Labrador, Winston. Okay, the table is set for the dumb supper. It's all looking really, really nice, but in order for it to be a supper, you need food, and I'm making the food. So that means that this pretty little witchy situation has to come off, because a baby elephant in a mud puddle makes less mess than I do when I'm cooking. Yeah, a hopefully quite calming, cool aesthetic Samhain vlog is about to take a turn for the chaotic.
Finish of a finished steak in the cauldron, boil and bake.
You've got to pick up every stitch. You've got to pick up every stitch, yeah. The rabbit's running down the ditch. Oh no, must be the season of the witch. Must be the season of the witch, yeah. Must be the season of the witch. When I look.
Alrighty darlings, I'm now going to give you a tour of my second Samhain altar to round out our celebrations for 2019. Obviously I have a bunch of the same things as I did for my altar in Hobart, but there are a few new things, so I'll tell you what they are. Of course, we have my Book of Shadows with the pentacle and my bell, but I also have my chalice, which you fill with water and therefore use to represent the element of water. I didn't take that with me down to Hobart in case it broke. I've got the same orange candle and gold candle to light, of course. I also included an apple, which as we know is food of the other world, and it looks very pretty being a little buddy for my mini pumpkin. I always like to include dead flowers on these altars, which as we know is a symbol of the cycle of life and death, as being a sign of nature's loss as well as our own. So I have some flannel flowers from a bouquet inside my little mortar bowl. And this big purple flower in the middle is actually from the bouquet that my father gave me when I graduated university earlier this year. So I'm very impressed that it's actually kept its shape and its colour for that long, and it also means that it's attached to a moment of life that was meaningful, so I guess that suits Samhain. Those little flower chains underneath it, I actually found on the street when I was coming home one day, and so I decided to rescue them and take them home and put them in my Samhain altar. I wanted to try and put them into a pentacle shape to go under the purple flower, but that didn't quite work, so they're sort of in this vague triangle, but it still looks pretty cool. Next to the flowers, I have this metal fairy, which I actually got from Hobart, because I do love working with the Fae, don't we all? Over here I've got two tarot cards, the Magician and the High Priestess. I was told that they are a significant pair for the time of Samhain, so that's why I selected them. And of course I have my wand looking sparkly in purple as ever, and making this tiny table into a pretty sacred space. And then I've got my Samhain crystals that you saw in Hobart, but here I've also added the gold, diamond and amber bug pin that was an heirloom that I mentioned earlier in this video. I think it looks pretty gorgeous next to the other stones and with the gold leaf. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more of my content, which ranges from silly to creative to witchy to encouraging, I hope. And remember, I love you. Keep going.